Life is kind of funny. You can try to guess where you'll end up, but you can never really be sure what will happen. Who you'll meet and how they might change your fortunes. I certainly didn't expect my life to change like it did that day in the forest. But it was never the same after that. My footsteps crunched across the dry leaves as I walked through the woods on the late summer afternoon. Birds were singing in the trees, and squirrels were chasing each other through the tall grass. It would have been a perfect day, if not for the fact that I was alone. Every so often, I would feel a pang of heartache at the loss of my friends back in Bridgeton, now 50 miles away. At that moment, it felt as if they lived in another world. Bridgeton might as well be Mars when you're not old enough to drive, after all. Why was it so hard to make new friends? I picked up a pine cone and threw it hard, missing the tree I was aiming for and sending it sailing through the air, where it landed in a pile of leaves. Something caught my eye where it hit the ground. A glint of something, shiny and gold. Walking over towards it, I reached down and was surprised to see a polished golden key. It had the symbol of a tree etched on the bow, and the blade of it was a long cylinder with teeth. I had never seen a key like that in real life. It looked like it was straight out of a medieval fantasy movie. Just then, a girl in a black hooded sweatshirt came around a bend in the path. She was dark-haired and tall, slender and beautiful, and I guessed her to be around my age. She saw the key in my hand and raced over, while I stood there dumbly looking at her. I was never very good at talking to girls. "You found it!" she exclaimed, looking overjoyed. The girl was suddenly inches away, and she hugged me unexpectedly, then surprised me even further by planting a quick, berry-flavored kiss right on my lips. She stepped back and watched me blush, with her astonishing purple eyes. "Thanks," she said, a devious smile on her face. I noticed the key was in her hand now, but I hadn't even seen her take it. "Hey!" But before I could say another word, she was off running. She glanced back over her shoulder and grinned at me, then disappeared off the path and into the woods. I wanted to chase after her for some reason, feeling like she'd gotten one over on me. The key had looked important and ancient, polished as if someone had taken extremely good care of it. And yet, she had seemed so confident that it was hers. Maybe it was, after all. Interrupting my thoughts once more, I heard the sound of someone rummaging in the forest a little ways off to my right. Then the deep voice of a man talking to himself. "Where is it? Where is it? It can't be gone. It must be here somewhere. It must be." "Hello," I said, walking over to him. He was a tall man with gray hair and a big nose, I saw, down on his hands and knees, rooting around in the leaves. He was dressed in green and brown, a canvas knapsack on his back. He carried with him a long, wooden walking stick. The man jumped up when he heard me coming. He looked at me and narrowed his eyes, appearing distrustful at first. But then he looked at me closely for a few moments, and his face softened. "Hello there, young man. You didn't happen to see a key on a chain, sort of like a necklace, lying around here? Did you?" I did, actually. I picked it up just over there," I said. He ran over to me and grabbed my shirt collar, eyes wide and manic, hair askew and spittle dribbling from his lower lip. "Where is it? You must give it to me. It is vital that you return it to me immediately." Seeing my scared face, and the fact that I looked ready to run away, he calmed himself slightly. "Sorry, it's just that it's quite sentimental to me. It's a family heirloom, and without it, well, let's just not speak of that right now. So, do you have it? I'll give you gold for it. Plenty of gold. I have lots." He began to pull handfuls of gold coins from his pockets, which glimmered in the dull light of the forest. They tumbled out of his hands, falling into the leaves and disappearing. He pulled more and more from his coat, tucking them into my pockets with his long fingers. He suddenly furrowed his brow. "Where is it? Where is it? Hey! Are you trying to pickpocket me like that girl did a minute ago? What's with the two of you? I guess you must be related or something. She's got it. Why don't you go after her?" The old man's face dropped. He looked furious and terrified at the same time, his eyes wide and unblinking. "You fool! Where did she go? Do you realize what she'll do with that key?" He stalked off into the forest, and I followed after him. "It wasn't my fault. She stole it from me. Who is she, anyways? Who are you? And why are you both so interested in that key?" He spun around and practically screamed at me. "That key is the only thing keeping our worlds together. We must stop her." "Oh. She's too much for me to handle on my own. I'm getting too old for this stuff. I'm gonna need your help, kid. Can you do this with your fingers?" He made his hand into a finger gun. Yeah. "Good. Then I'm gonna take a calculated risk here and decide to trust you. You've got brown eyes, so that's a good sign. At least they ain't purple. If you ever see somebody with purple eyes, just run the opposite direction, got it?" "Okay." "All right. Here goes nothing," he said, lowering the walking stick he was carrying so that it pointed at me. The end of it started to glow a faint white, then light blue. "Conjugatori, addicti, magici." A beam of blue light shot out of the staff, and my entire body suddenly felt warm and full of energy. It thrummed along my arms and into my fingertips, before settling into a low hum which reverberated in my ears. "Whoa, what'd you do to me?" "No time to explain. We've got an evil sorceress to stop. Just remember, finger guns." "Okay. Here, hold on to my arm for a second." I did as he asked, and suddenly the entire world went white. When I opened my eyes again, we were standing apart, in a completely different area of the forest. It was located somewhere I had never been before. A huge oak tree stood before us, towering high above all the others. It seemed to have 1,000 branches and 1,000,000 leaves. Such an impressive tree I had never seen before, and I felt immediately protective of it. Standing in front of it was the girl who had kissed me. She held the key and, with her other hand, was feeling the bark of the tree trunk, and looked to be inspecting it carefully. Strangely uneasy, I felt as if she should not be standing so close to it. It felt as if she had some nefarious purpose in mind. "Step back from it, Grupe. You have no business near the all-world tree." She spun around and looked at him with that evil grin on her face yet again. I watched as she lowered the key and pointed it directly at him, and he dove to avoid a gout of fire which came forth from it. The roar of it was loud and terrifying. Birds and wildlife fled from the sound. The man was on the ground, breathing heavily. He looked up at me and nodded. I remembered what he had told me and made the finger gun with my right hand, pointing it at the girl dressed in black. I realized already that she would kill us both if given the chance, but I had no idea what would result from my decision. Surprisingly, a bolt of energy like white lightning burst forth from my fingertip, striking the girl square in the chest. She went flying, dropping the key and causing the fire blast to cease immediately. The man ran over to the key and grabbed it from the ground, putting the chain around his neck. He stood over the wounded girl, pointing his staff at her. "Do not move. It is time you paid the price for all the torment you have caused." His staff began to glow once more, and I felt as if he was about to kill her. I couldn't let that happen. Whatever she had done, she didn't deserve such a harsh punishment. Did she? "Hey, what are you doing?" I shouted, running over. "Stop! You can't kill her!" A look of annoyance passed over his face, He opened his mouth to say something when I saw her moving on the ground. The girl pulled something from her pocket and dropped it to the dirt. A black cloud of smoke suddenly appeared, causing us to cough and wave at the air. By the time the fog had dissipated, she was gone.
You fool! You distracted me for a second, and that was all it took. She's gone! I'll never get a chance like that again.
He huffed and stomped away, walking straight towards the tree. There, he stood at its base, inspecting it, wiping it off as if she had dirtied it with her fingers. What? I am so confused. Who are you? Who is she? What's the deal with this tree and that key and... What did you do to me? I just shot lightning with my finger. Turning around, he looked at me and smiled warmly.
You did, didn't you? And I suppose you did sort of save my life, in a way. Maybe you'll make a decent apprentice after all.
That night, I lay in bed, wide awake, unable to sleep after all that had happened. I could still feel the power humming through my veins, and wanted nothing more than to express it again. Like a young musical savant who has just learned to play the guitar and knows that a Les Paul is nearby just waiting to be played. The man from the forest had introduced himself to me as Xavier. He was a sorcerer. Not only that, but he was the guardian of this realm, he told me. The most powerful one in each world was given the duty to protect the tree, and he had been granted the task from his mentor before him. My training would begin the following day after school, he told me, and I would have a lot to learn, especially since I was one day going to be the new guardian of the tree. The key, which hung around Xavier's neck, would one day hang around my own. Who would have thought? Just then, I heard something from the shadows in my darkened bedroom. A rustling sound like movement. I pulled the chain and turned on the lamp at my bedside, my heart trip-hammering with fear. There was no one there. But I had heard something. I was sure of it. I pulled the chain again, and the room was plunged into darkness once more. Even blacker than before, because my eyes were not adjusted to it. The sound was there again. Movement, rustling, footsteps drawing closer. I heard someone breathing as if they were standing over me in the night, watching me. Crickets were no longer chirping outside. Frogs and toads had stopped making their sounds. All was quiet except the sound of her breathing, standing over me, observing me. My heart was in my throat, fear filling every inch of me as she hovered over me. Purple orbs began to faintly glow, and I realized it was her eyes. The smell of the berry lip gloss she had worn when she kissed me filled my nostrils, and I felt like butterflies were fluttering in my stomach at the scent. But also, a growing sense of doom, of horror, at the smell which lingered beneath that. The stench of death. So, you're the one who will be Xavier's new apprentice. How delightful. I pulled the chain again, and the light came on. Unthinkingly, I had made a finger gun with my hand, and was pointing it where she had been standing. But nothing had happened. And, of course, she was gone. Her laughter could be heard faintly through the window, coming from outside. But the scent of her stayed with me, faintly on my lips. I realized I might be in a lot of trouble.
If you are going to be my apprentice, you must listen, boy,
Xavier shouted at me. His long gray hair and beard whipped around his reddened face. His arms waved wildly as he spoke, holding his long wooden staff threateningly.
A double-double contains the vital cream and sugar that a man needs for survival. You order a coffee regular, and who knows what the hell you're gonna get.
Sorcerers were much stranger than I had ever imagined, it turned out. But then again, I wouldn't have imagined they existed in the first place. Sorry about that, sir. Won't happen again.
See that it doesn't, young man.
He sat down on a short wooden stool, which was positioned next to a table covered in a messy stack of papers. Xavier sipped at the hot coffee in its paper cup, grimacing at the taste.
This really is terrible, you know. Just awful.
We were in his workshop, located in the garage of his house. An old, beat-up two-story building on the east side of town. In the shadier section of town, I might add. Ladies of the night could be seen roaming the streets only a few blocks away, even in broad daylight. And most of the buildings were shuttered and empty. I rode my bike over there after school for my first day on the job, working as the Sorcerer's new apprentice. The day prior, I had helped him save the universe, and he kinda owed me one. So he'd agreed to pay me minimum wage under the table, in magical golden coins.
So much to learn, and we have so little time. I should have picked a new apprentice years ago. Now I'm stuck with...
He looked up and seemed to have forgotten I was standing there.
What's your name again? Oh, forget it. There's no time for pleasantries. Let's begin. No time like the present.
The old sorcerer in brown and green robes stood to his feet and looked me up and down.
What did I teach you yesterday? Refresh my memory, will you? I'm 1,008 years old, after all. And they say when you hit 1,000, that's when your mind really starts to go...
He pointed to his temple and made the sound of a squeegee trying to get a stain off a windshield. Finger guns, remember? I could see by his face that he did not.
Right, I taught you finger guns. The old lightning spell. As cliche as they come, but reliable in a pinch. Good. Now, what's next?
You're asking me?
Oh, good point. I am the mentor, which means I have to teach you a few things before you can be trusted on your own. Hence the bungled coffee order. Very well. What else?
I felt like it was important for me to be honest with him. Something was bothering me. Before we get started, I have a confession to make. Well, not so much a confession, but something that happened and that you should know about. I realized I was rambling and stopped, looking at his perplexed face. You know that girl from yesterday? At the tree? The one who stole your key?
Grupe,
he murmured hatefully. Right. Well, see, before we met, she stole the key from me. She distracted me by kissing me and...
Oh no. Not the berry lip gloss.
Yeah, how'd you know?
Oh, I was once your age. I know how it is. Her mother pulled the same trick on me once. But that girl is not your age. She's at least 100. Maybe more. I've been dealing with her for a long time now. You can't trust her.
I was so confused. But he seemed to notice that and explained.
When you become a fully fledged sorcerer or sorceress, you get age-extending benefits from the enhancement process. You get to decide if you want to use your powers for good or evil. She chose evil.
So, she was somebody's apprentice?
Yes. Once. A long, long time ago. She was the youngest apprentice we'd ever had in the guild. So great was her potential.
He looked to be far off in thought for a few moments, but then he came back to reality again. She looks like she's about my age.
Right you are. Maybe you've got some potential after all. There's only one way to get rid of that sort of black magic. We need to get one of her hairs, plucked straight from the top of her head.
He pulled out one of my own hairs to demonstrate. Ow!
We gather a few other easy-to-obtain ingredients, and bada boom! We perform the ritual and break the spell.
What a relief, I thought to myself. No more late-night visits from the girl who pretended to like me, but was really just trying to get to the sorcerer and take his key. I knew better than that. I couldn't be fooled. Later that night, I was fooled. She came to see me in my darkened bedroom once again. It was 3 a.m. this time, and I had just woken up from a deep sleep to find her laying in bed next to me. My mom would be so pissed. I was still in high school, just to be clear, and this was an older woman in my bed with me. A much, much older woman. The intoxicating, sweet and sour smell of her invaded my nostrils once again as I breathed her in. She smelled like fresh-picked berries mixed with corpse flesh. I immediately forgot about the fact that I was supposed to hate her. I had butterflies in my stomach as I gazed into her glowing purple eyes, and I felt my hand reaching up to stroke her hair in the darkness. We kissed again, and after pulling away from her, I swallowed a hard lump in my throat before speaking. "Hi." "Hi," she said back. "So, what did Xavier say about me? That I'm evil or something, probably, right?" I was only a bit surprised to find myself answering her, giving away any secrets she asked for. "Yeah, pretty much." "Are you?" "Oh, definitely." "You are?" "Uh-huh." She kissed me again, and I felt my entire body break out in tingling prickles. "Well, then I don't feel so bad about this then."
Gotcha, Bruca.
Xavier had appeared behind her in the darkness a few moments before, and now was standing just behind her, holding one of her hairs triumphantly in his grip. She spun around and snatched at it, jumping in the air trying to grab it from the taller man, while he held it above his head like a bully playing keep away. "Give it back!"
Bruca. Greedy never gets. Don't you know your manners yet? You're 100 years old. You should know your manners by now.
"You're such a dick! Just give it to me! I hate you, Dad!" My eyes widened. Was she being serious? Wait, you're his daughter? Duh, didn't he tell you that? Stop it, Dad, I really like him.
Quit speaking like that to my apprentice. You're distracting him from his studies. You have no right. And you have no right to that key either. It's not your birthright. It's going to whoever I see fit. And that's him.
She suddenly looked furious. Him? You're gonna give it to him? He nodded. She huffed, then snapped her fingers and disappeared, as did the sorcerer a few moments later. My parents came in just after that, rubbing their bleary eyes.
Who are you talking to? It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, nobody. Sorry I woke you up. It was just a bad dream.
Oh, okay. Good night, kiddo.
My dad said, shooting me the finger guns like he sometimes did. I winked back and almost gave him the same finger guns back. I stopped myself at the last second. What a disaster that would have been. This whole sorcerer business was going to take some getting used to, and I was going to need to be a quick learner by the looks of things. I only hoped I could learn fast enough to take over the position as guardian of the all-world tree before Xavier really lost his marbles. That thought brought a newfound fear into my heart. What if Xavier was no longer able to fulfill his duties? Would I suddenly be responsible for keeping the universe intact? My heart beat with a dull thud in my temples and in my ears, the sound of it getting faster and faster. I wasn't ready for this. What's the point of all this, anyways? Just to guard some stupid tree? And if it's so damn powerful, why can't it protect itself? The all-world tree stood imposingly behind Xavier, tall and reaching impossibly high into the sky. Looking up, I tried to see the top of it, but could not.
The all-world tree is not simply a tree, boy. Have you not come to realize this by now?
We had been training for nearly 2 weeks, and he had definitely mentioned that. It had just slipped my mind. A lot of things were slipping my mind lately. Things like math and English homework, studying for tests, and getting good grades at school had fallen to the very bottom of the list. And up at the top of my mind was a girl with purple eyes and a mischievous smile. Somewhere beneath that was training to be the new guardian the all-powerful sorcerer charged with defending this corner of the multiverse.
What's the matter with you? Are you even listening to me?
He shouted at me, suddenly furious. I realized I'd been standing there not saying anything for a while. Oh, sorry. Lost my thoughts, I guess. He huffed and turned towards the tree, his face now bright red with anger. With a quick tap of his staff, the bark began to split open like a zipper fly being undone. It even made a loud zip sound like a pair of Levi's being unzipped. Behind the hard exterior of the tree was an impossibly bright light, which shone through into the forest and stung my eyes. Xavier didn't flinch.
Come on,
he said.
I will show you the consequences of not caring. Remember, all too soon the tree will be your charge, not mine. I will be gone, and you will be all that stands in the way.
In the way of what? He grabbed me roughly by the arm and dragged me with him through the doorway, into the light of the tree. As we stepped through, it all went black.
This,
he said, holding his hands out once we were on the other side.
This is what comes from not caring about what happens to the tree. This is what comes when it is not protected from the darkness.
A black void was all around us. Pieces of rubble and chunks of broken earth. Old buildings and rocks floated through the air, drifting endlessly. In the sky, the sun had burnt out, and the moon was a crumbling wreck, eroding and falling to pieces. Wildlife, trees, and plants hung suspended, floating through the air, still alive but beginning to wither from lack of light. Everything looked miserably, impossibly alive, but it appeared that life was fading, being drained by the constant darkness. The mewing of a small kitten could be heard from a distance away, and I wondered how this could have happened. It was like the remains of our world if something had destroyed everything that made it what it was.
Take a good look around. This is what will come of Earth, if you don't take this new responsibility seriously.
I stumbled backwards in a terrified stupor, my back slamming into the tree. I turned around and the doorway was gone. But still, every inch of me wanted to leave this place.
Are you listening to me, boy?
He shouted, slapping me on the back of the head with the flat palm of his hand.
You've been with her again, haven't you? That's why you're acting like this. How many times do I have to tell you? She's bad news. Nothing but trouble.
He was talking about Grupe, of course. And it was true. I had been seeing her behind his back. She's your daughter.
And? You think that makes it better? Just because I'm a guardian of the universe and a powerful sorcerer doesn't mean I'm not capable of being a shitty father. I went wrong somewhere along the way. I screwed up, okay? She's rotten. Dead on the inside. And that putrescent necrosis is spreading outwards. It'll get you too if you're not careful. Just stay away from her.
No, I love her, I shouted, like the hormone-raging, lonely, ill-shapen teenager that I was. At that moment, I really did. Despite everything wrong with her, you couldn't have convinced me otherwise. I needed to convince myself. He wrinkled his brow at me, scowling, then grunted and turned around, tapping his staff against the dead, decayed surface of the tree. The rough bark unzipped again. You stay here, and give that decision some serious thought. Do you really love her? Or are you just infatuated with her because she's the first person to act interested in you? I want you to look around. Really look around. See what the world will be like if you decide to go down that road. Like so many others. I do not want to choose another apprentice. I've already gone through 6 of them. I'm running out of extra robes. So get your head on straight. He stepped through the hole and into the blinding light, leaving me alone in the dark void full of things that had once been beautiful. The destroyed world of the abyss. I would come to find out that there was more than one of these worlds, in various stages of annihilation. The kitten, who had been meowing a few minutes prior, was desperately swimming through the air towards me, its little toe-bean mittens raking the air with furious swipes. It flew right into my chest and crashed softly into me. I caught it, holding it in my hands and stroking its soft, scared little head thoughtfully. You get it, don't you, buddy? I can't just cut her out of my life. Well, sure, she's evil, and yeah, she wants to kill us all and cause the end of everything. But you get it. I can tell. It's the intangible things, you know? The little things. Like how she's always got an extra stick of gum in her pocket for me. And how well, mostly it's how she makes out with me when her dad's asleep. I sighed, thinking maybe for the first time that Xavier was right. She was evil. She was always trying to get me to steal the key that he wore on a chain around his neck. But I refused to do that. I knew how important it was. Still, she pestered me about it nonstop. Eventually, I would probably relent, no matter how much I didn't want to. The kitten had fallen asleep in my arms, and it was warm and content there, so I didn't wake it up. I just kept stroking its head softly, and thinking about what the hell I was gonna do. I had to break up with Grupe, I realized. She was no good. Literally. She had zero goodness in her, after a deal she'd made with a demon from a dark dimension several decades prior. With that thought suddenly unshakable in my mind, the doorway before me opened, and I stepped through. Right into Bruca's bedroom. She was laying on the bed, watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch on her phone. Dun dun! The Netflix deep bass opening sound effect greeted me ominously. Oh, hey, I said. Hi, she said, putting down her phone and raising her index finger and curling it inwards, bidding me to come closer to her. Let me guess. Did my dad leave you in that abyss dimension with all the floating cats? I realized I was still holding the little guy. Oh, shit. Should I chuck him back in? Do you think this will cause like an interdimensional rift or something? I'm sure it'll probably be fine. Just put him with the others. I let the cat down, and it joined a half dozen or so others. So, there's something I need to talk to you about, I began to say, when Xavier barged into the room and grabbed me roughly by the arm. What the hell, Dad? Get out of my room! He was about to tell me something important.
He's dumping you, dear,
the old sorcerer said, pulling me out through the door he had just come in through. The scenery on the other side did not look like the inside of the house we were in. Instead, it resembled a desert somewhere. What? Hey, he is not. Sorry. I really wanted to tell you in a nicer way than that. Again, really sorry, I said, before the door slammed and we were suddenly on a sand dune with the sun beating down on us from above. That was a real dick move, you know. She's your daughter. You talk to her like that? He scoffed and turned away, looking into the distance. Desert surrounded us on all sides for as far as the eye could see.
She'd take your life in a second if she thought it would get her one step closer to her goal. Don't forget that. She's your enemy now. Your most bitter rival. Don't let her get close to you again.
But she's your daughter. You two live in the same house. What if I see her in the kitchen when I'm getting a glass of water or something?
Good point. Bring a bottle with you from home. Now, let's get down to business. I've shown you a couple basic spells.
One basic spell. Finger guns. I demonstrated, sending 2 bolts of lightning into the distance, where they fizzled out among another set of sand dunes a couple miles away, probably making 2 tiny coasters made of glass that some camel would trip over at some point down the line.
Careful with those things. You could kill a camel. Okay, so I showed you one spell. But now is the important part. I'm going to show you how spells work. This is the most complicated part of becoming a sorcerer. It takes a lifetime to master it, and you never stop learning. So pay attention.
I perked up my ears and actually listened to the old guy for the first time in a while. He looked like he actually wanted to show me something. His staff was gripped tightly in his hand, and his brown robes blew in the sandy breeze, as he began to speak with an authority and intellect I had not known him capable of.
when you cast your finger gun lightning bolt, do you know where that lightning is coming from?
No. I wondered about it, though. It was true. I had thought about it. It always felt like I was channeling a power which was coming from another place. Like I was just a conduit for it, not the one creating it. I said that to Xavier, and he nodded.
Very astute, boy. Yes, that's exactly right. We are not the ones who create the lightning bolts or the fireballs. We are simply opening a channel to another world which contains those things.
But then, how can I even cast a lightning bolt spell? I don't know how to open a doorway to another world. I wouldn't even know how to find the dimension full of constant lightning, let alone know how to use it.
Once you have become experienced enough at opening certain conduits, you can do it very easily. The lightning spell was one of the first I ever learned. It became so innate, I learned how to summon it with simply a gesture. Like a cantrip.
Can what?
Oh, never mind. Nobody plays D&D anymore. Sad, really. I passed that talent on to you through another spell, but that one is a bit more complicated.
What do you mean you passed it on to me?
You are to be my heir. As you gain more power, I will lose my own. That is my gift and my curse, as it will be yours when you train your replacement one day.
So, you can't cast the finger gun lightning bolt spell anymore? Even though that was your favorite spell? He shook his head, looking slightly remorseful. I suddenly felt bad for my lack of gratitude. Sure, I was being trained to do a thankless job that would have me working for hundreds of years with zero pay. But Xavier had already done that job himself for a long time, and was now being stripped of his powers and responsibilities one by one. Overcome with emotion, I gave the old man a hug. His old bones creaked, and he whined and complained until I stopped. Thank you, Xavier, for all you've done. His eyes were wet with tears, as were my own.
First damn thank you I've gotten in 1,000 years,
he managed.
I appreciate it. Now, on to the lesson.
Another thought suddenly occurred to me. Wait, what about your daughter's magic abilities? Do you mean she got those from you? He looked at me sheepishly, but didn't say anything. And you said you've had, what, 5 different apprentices before me? Again, he said nothing, but his face was getting a little red. How many powers have you given away? Do you even have any left?
I've got plenty of power left in me. There is an infinite number of spells out there, depending on which part of the multiverse you're pulling from. I just needed to get creative after a while.
So what the hell am I supposed to do now? I can't learn some kinds of magic now because you gave away all your abilities?
Well, not exactly. You can get them back. You would just need to defeat my former apprentices in battle. You beat them, you get their powers. It's sort of a Highlander situation in that regard. Sans the decapitation.
Oh, this just gets better and better, doesn't it? His smile told me he did not comprehend sarcasm. Maybe that was one of the abilities he gave away, I thought to myself bitterly. This was going to be a very long apprenticeship. So, what does your magical staff do? I asked the sorcerer, alone with him in his workshop once again. And the key that Grupe is so obsessed with. Learning all the new information about how magic worked, using conduits to different dimensions, had ignited something within me. My curiosity was now an itch that needed desperately to be scratched. I wanted answers, damn it. After months of being Xavier's apprentice, I had finally learned a couple of his secrets, and they were huge. I couldn't believe he hadn't told me until now that he had given up pieces of magical knowledge and his own abilities to train his former apprentices. 5 of them. Now they were all out there working with Grupe, his worst and first apprentice, trying to bring down the all-world tree and, with it, all of existence. We were sitting in Xavier's little workshop/armory in the basement of his cramped old house. His daughter, my newly now ex-girlfriend, was just upstairs, and I was waiting for her to start hammering on the door, barging in to try and talk to me. We had just broken up minutes before, a decision I had made after returning from the Abyss dimension, which showed the potential unmaking of reality. Exactly what would happen to Earth if I went along with the plan she had been hinting at for the past couple of weeks. I was realizing more and more by the second that it was the right decision to break things off with her. She had been using me, just like she had used others to accomplish her horrible goals.
The staff was created using a part of the all-world tree, grafted from a branch by my master's master. It took many years and many spells to remove this piece of wood from the tree. Countless lives have been lost. Wars between worlds have been fought over the staff to preserve it from the hands of evil. It serves a very special purpose, allowing me to access the powers of the tree even when I'm far away from it. When you cast the lightning bolts from your fingers, that magic still traveled through the staff. From it to you, our magic is nothing without it, unless we are standing right next to the all-world tree. But don't worry, I won't hold on to it forever. This staff will belong to you one day very soon.
He tossed it to me, allowing me to hold it for the first time. I felt the heavy weight of it in my hands, and the power of it thrumming in my fingertips. It seemed to be alive with energy. When I moved my hands up the length of it, I noticed sparks flew from it, in all the colors of the rainbow.
Hold it close, and whatever you do, don't drop it. There are forces in this world and others who would kill to have a piece of the tree, to wield as their own. Its magic is one of a kind, unbreakable and undefeatable when used correctly.
So, how do I use it? He narrowed his eyes at me for a moment.
Promise you won't turn evil on me like the other ones? You'll have to excuse my suspicions, but I haven't had a good track record with apprentices.
I promise, I said, smiling. Don't worry, I'm with you. Let's keep the multiverse safe. Let the tree keep doing its thing. He still looked suspicious. Xavier, trust me, okay? I like being alive, and those cats floating around in the abyss looked really sad. I don't want that to be me one day.
Okay, I trust you. And yes, the abyss worlds are quite tragic. So many floating cats, with no kibble. And yet they don't die like the other warm-blooded creatures. That is a mystery even I can't solve. Maybe you'll figure it out. It seems impossible, which means it's important. Anyway, back to the staff. Watch closely, boy.
He grabbed the wooden staff and closed his eyes for a brief second. Sand began to pour out from the end of the carved piece of wood. First, just a few grains, then a rush of it all at once, until we were standing waist deep in desert sand, but still within his workshop. A dune of the stuff was surrounding us on all sides. I sneezed violently.
Gesundheit.
He tapped the top of his staff with his index finger, and the sand was suddenly sucked back up into it from the base, leaving not a grain of it remaining on the floor. It looked like the world's most efficient Hoover vacuum cleaner attachment. Then he handed the staff back to me.
You just have to close your eyes and picture the place. The desert world. Make the mental image as real as you can in your mind. Don't just think about how it looked. Remember how it feels. How it smells and tastes and sounds. To be standing there on the dunes. The heat of the sun beating down on the back of your neck. The crunch of gritty sand between your teeth. As the cooling wind blows in your face and through your hair. The shifting hills beneath your feet. And the smell of 1,000,000,000 billion acres of the same white sand. For as far as the eye can see.
I found that I could feel it and hear it all just as he described. With my eyes closed, it felt like I was standing there once again, in the middle of a world made of sand.
Okay, stop!
Xavier was laughing and shouting, and I saw that the room was now nearly full of sand. There was more pouring from the staff by the second, and he snatched it from my hand desperately as we began to rise on the dunes and the height of them grew towards the ceiling.
Sandicus Bacchus! Into portal fracas!
He shouted, and the sand all disappeared suddenly. Whoa, what was that? Some kind of magical incantation?
No, just gibberish. Anyways, there you have it. The sand spell. You can have that one. It's all yours. With my abilities as Guardian, I can reverse things and put them back to how they were with a concerted effort. So don't worry if you make a mistake. At least not while I'm around. One day you'll have to clean up your own messes, though.
I couldn't help but feel humbled by all this. The responsibilities of what would soon be my charge were looming larger than ever in my mind. So, does every Guardian get one of these bad boys? I asked, gesturing towards the staff.
No. Our existence had a special sort of threat, which required a very special sort of intervention. Some Guardians carry a wand, made from a twig or a small branch of the tree. Even some apprentices are given such latitude. Given a wand once their apprenticeship becomes official.
I continued spinning and twirling the staff in my hands, until I realized he had trailed off and was staring at me, with an awkward look of embarrassment on his face. Oh no, don't tell me!
Well, I needed to train them with something. I couldn't just let them borrow my staff for all their adventures. And I don't have the time and energy to go with them on every little side quest.
Looking at the staff, I saw there were several places where the wood had been cut and pieces shaved off. Primarily, the top looked patchy and bald in one spot, where stray twigs should have been branching off from the main piece. It gave the staff a slightly lopsided appearance. So let me get this straight. You gave pieces of your staff, pieces of the all-world tree, to each of your apprentices, and taught them how to use magic, and now they're all super-duper evil. Is that what you're telling me?
More or less. There's one boy who's leaning chaotic neutral. I've really got my fingers crossed for him.
And for me, I hope. I gotta go fight them all now. That's what you're telling me, isn't it?
Well, except for maybe the chaotic neutral one, don't forget. He might turn out alright. I'm keeping an eye on him. We'll save him for last, how's that?
I sighed with exasperation, feeling defeated before even beginning. What would he tell me next? No wonder he hadn't wanted to tell me the truth, I thought to myself. It's all terrible. After a few more days of training, it was time for my first test, Xavier told me. He said one of the former apprentices he had trained was pretty dim-witted. The guy wouldn't pose much of a threat. And he had his own magic wand, which I would get to keep after I defeated him. It was hard to argue with that. I couldn't wait to have my own little piece of the all-world tree to open up channels to other dimensions with. I would have to be very careful, Xavier told me, since many of the dimensions were quite chaotic. But we would get to that later.
I'll be with you the whole time,
Xavier said when we were outside Derek's hideout. He was Xavier's sixth and most recent apprentice. The place was an old warehouse downtown, and the neighborhood looked more than a little scary. A trash can was on fire nearby, casting the street in a flickering orange glow. There was nobody standing near it anywhere. Rats and mice were scurrying past in the open, and a man in tattered rags shuffled past us, pushing a shopping cart full of cans. On his feet were two beat-up Kleenex boxes. The sorcerer caught me staring at them.
Shuicus Nuicus,
Xavier said with a smile, tapping his staff twice on the ground. The man's shoes became a very comfortable-looking pair of running shoes. He didn't immediately notice, but I thought he'd probably appreciate it later on.
From the shoe dimension,
the sorcerer explained. Xavier had cast an invisibility spell on himself, so that he could come along and assist me if necessary, but also so that I could use the spells I'd learned, which were cast through the staff. He wasn't quite prepared to lend me that yet, for somewhat obvious reasons. Alright, here goes. I went in straight through the front door, and found the place to be a huge, abandoned industrial shop. There was old, dusty machinery everywhere, and the only light was the dim glow of the moon coming in from a few dingy windows up above. Hello? I called out.
Don't announce yourself,
Xavier whispered.
You're supposed to be sneaking up on him.
Then why'd you tell me to come in through the front door? And why are you talking? I thought this was my mission. He simply harumphed and didn't say another word. Ah, there you are. He must be Xavier's new apprentice. My spies told me you'd be coming. The voice came from the shadows, and I stopped moving, looking around for the source of it. But I couldn't see anyone. So this is your hideout? I called out. A big, empty warehouse? To be honest, I'm kind of disappointed. I thought you'd be hiding out in an alternate dimension, in an old creepy castle or something cool. A kid stepped forward from the shadows. He looked to be about my age, with black hair and glasses. He was wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt and ripped jeans. I like urban exploring. It's one of my hobbies. That and killing lawful good douchebags like you. Let me guess. You're trying to protect the all-world tree? As if Xavier's the right one to be guarding it. The guy can't even control his own daughter. Don't talk about her. Or else what? What are you gonna do? He asked, taking out a crooked-looking wand from his pocket that appeared polished and yet scarred and burnt from various battles. Oh, there's lots I can do. Your best bet is to surrender now while you still can, I said, with as much of a threatening tone as I could muster. What? Did he teach you some plant life spells? How to make sand appear? I eyed the empty space where Xavier was standing suspiciously.
I swear, I never taught him the sand spell,
he whispered.
Maybe the dirt spell, though.
Did he take you to the Abyss Dimension and show you all the floating cats? Did he try to make you all sad? Derek asked in a mocking voice. I was already sick of this kid. I pointed my finger guns at him and shot a concentrated bolt of lightning in his direction. He looked momentarily surprised, but not surprised enough. He leapt down from the second-level railing where he'd been standing, flipping in the air on the way down. He landed like a superhero on the floor below, 30 feet or so from where I was standing. He looked unhurt and unbothered by my attack. My turn, he said, straightening his glasses and rubbing his hands together. He raised up his palms, and pillars of earth and concrete grew from the floor in rows, which shot up one by one in huge rectangular blocks. With his hand, he lifted them up effortlessly into the air, where they tipped over and toppled like dominoes, joining together in a line. Then he sent them flying towards me, a massive spear of rock and earth weighing hundreds of tons. The huge blocks of dirt and concrete were immediately upon me, as I stood terrified on the ground floor of the massive industrial building. I had only a second to act, maybe less. But time seemed to slow down as I watched them flying toward me, the air filling with dust and debris. Suddenly, I realized time really was slowing down. It was slowing down considerably, and it wasn't just my perception of it.
Move. We've only got a few moments.
Xavier shoved me out of the way, and the dirt pillars crashed into the wall behind me, where I had been standing just a moment before. Dust hung in the air, and it was difficult to breathe, and impossible to see, as I tried to wave it out of my face desperately.
Quickly, before he realizes you're alive,
Xavier said. He opened up a portal in the air in front of us, and we both stepped through. When we emerged, I saw we were standing behind Derek, and I realized the old sorcerer had transported us to the other side of this huge industrial space. I got slightly dizzy for a moment from the sudden flip in perspective. Shaking that off, I tried to concentrate. Closing my eyes, I imagined the vines from the jungle dimension, which Xavier had taken me to. I pictured those vines growing up and entangling Derek, wrapping him up and taking the wand from his hand. Opening my eyes, I looked to see nothing had happened. I could sense Xavier's invisible presence standing next to me, looking impatient. I closed my eyes again and tried once more, trying to stop my distracted mind from feeling so anxious. But it was impossible with him watching me. The jungle dimension. My mind tried to focus on it, but it kept slipping away. It was too distracting with Xavier right there and that kid just a few feet away. I was terrified of being caught off guard by him again. Opening my eyes, I saw he was now turning to face me. I only had a second. I made the finger guns again and pointed them at him, blasting him with a bolt of lightning just as his eyes widened with surprise at seeing me standing there behind him. The wand flew from his hand and rattled to the floor. Ha! I laughed triumphantly. It hadn't gone perfectly, but I had the wand. It was right there. I just had to pick it up. But as I walked over towards it, I saw shapes coming out from the shadows. I took a terrified step backward when I saw that there were not just a couple of them, whatever they were, but hundreds of them. Thousands. Derek was on the ground several feet away, slowly getting up. He smiled when he saw them. Thousands of rats and mice came from everywhere to assist him. Their gray, brown, and black bodies were racing towards us, some of them going for the wand. They snatched it up in their teeth and brought it back to Derek like dogs playing fetch, and he laughed seeing my sudden fear. He snatched up the wand and drew a circle on the floor beneath him, before I could even begin to react. The concrete dropped out from below him, and he fell down into another dimension, promptly disappearing.
Oh, that little brat,
muttered Xavier.
He knows how much I hate these vermin.
The old sorcerer made his own portal, and yanked me by the arm, pulling me into it and closing it behind me. In a second, we were back in his workshop. He pulled a rat off the hem of his robes and tossed it back through the portal, squeaking indignantly. Our mission had failed.
Of course he would learn how to summon rats and mice. Oh, what a little...
What the hell are we gonna do now, Xavier? I thought I had him back there. But if he can just escape whenever things get tough, I'll never defeat him. Not to mention, he's got an army of rats. Those things are nasty. The old man looked at me and tossed me his staff.
Well, we'll just have to train harder then, won't we, boy?
And that was when I realized the old fart still didn't know my name. Xavier and I stumbled back into his workshop, covered in dirt and dust, with nothing but bruises to show for our efforts. Our first mission to restore balance to the multiverse had not gone as planned at all. His former apprentice had basically kicked both of our asses.
The little punk learned a few new spells. I'll give him that,
the old sorcerer said, as he sat down heavily on a stool beside his cluttered workbench. I collapsed on an old couch in the corner, my back aching from the fight. I thought you said he was the dumb one, the one who would be easiest to beat. That wasn't easy at all. We almost died back there. Thinking back, all I could picture was the horde of rats Derek had summoned at will. His spies, as he'd called them. Could he really communicate with them too? How the hell was he talking to those rats anyway? It's like they were his own personal army. Xavier looked at me and shook his head.
You still don't understand. There are infinite worlds out there connected by the all-world tree. Infinite! Is there one with telepathically controllable rats, just waiting for a child master to command them? Well, there was. Not anymore, because he just emptied it out.
What do you mean, emptied it out? The old man looked at me quizzically, as if wondering if he had explained this before. It was a look I was becoming all too familiar with. Look, I get that you've had a lot of apprentices before me, Xavier. I get that. And you're 1,008 years old. But let's just pretend for a minute that I know nothing, okay? If you told me this before, I'll stop you.
So, I didn't tell you about maintaining balance among the worlds?
Maybe a little bit. But let's pretend you didn't,
Okay.
he said, looking his age suddenly more than ever before.
If you say so.
He caught his breath before starting to speak again. I could tell I was in for one of his "don't collapse the multiverse" speeches.
Here's the thing. If you take too much from any one world, it will create a void there. You go to school, right?
Sure, I'm not forced to skip class to bring you your morning coffee.
Exactly. So, perhaps in your science classes, you've learned that the universe is made up partly of dark matter and dark energy, right? But nobody has ever really seen these things or understands them.
I nodded.
Okay, so think about it like a vacuum. If you make a vacuum, say like in Iraq or Afghanistan, when they took out the existing governmental power structure, then all this other dark shit comes in and takes its place.
I thought you were talking about like a Dyson or a Hoover.
Same basic concept.
Okay. So, is that what causes those abyss dimensions you showed me? You said there were more of them by the day, I said, picturing the world full of floating cats with no kibble. Xavier nodded.
Yes. I always return any channeled energy back to the original dimension it came from to avoid these types of imbalances. Like a be kind, rewind sort of situation. But I don't think Grupe and my other 5 former apprentices are being so kind to the multiverse. It is beginning to cause more and more damage by the day. Soon, we may not be able to repair it all.
I was beginning to understand why this was so important. We needed to stop the damage before it became irreparable. There were whole worlds dying by the minute, while I learned how to do my job stopping those 6 evil X's. Have you ever tried talking to them? I asked. Explaining the situation, see if they'll stop?
Many, many times. They were my apprentices, after all. I took the same care and diligent training as I am with you. They are well aware of what they're doing.
Okay, well, let's give it another shot. Can we locate Derek again and try to defeat him? The old sorcerer didn't look up. He just shuffled papers on his workbench and harumphed. Hey, Xavier. Come on, man. Look, I'm sorry I didn't get him on the first try. I'll beat him next time. It was kind of hard with you standing over my shoulder watching me like that. I got distracted. Maybe if I had my own wand and a bit of freedom, I could actually do a bit better next time. That did it. He stood up, his face red.
If not for me, you'd be dead right now, boy. Remember that huge pillar of rock and earth he summoned up and threw at your head? Did you think about that at all? I saved your life back there.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. I hung my head in shame and apologized.
It's half my fault,
he conceded.
I trained for years before my first mission. I gave you, a couple months?
More like a couple weeks. His face softened slightly, and he looked as if something important had just dawned on him.
My master taught me using a very interesting method. It's been so long, I actually forgot about it.
What method is that?
Come on, I'll show you.
And with that, he tapped his staff twice on the floor, and opened a portal to another dimension. We stepped inside, and I was blinded by white light, brighter than the sun.
Again!
Xavier shouted, banging his staff loudly against a tree root beneath his feet. I was exhausted. We had been training all day in the jungle dimension. The mosquitoes were biting my flesh, and the air was hot and humid, making it difficult to breathe. Ugh, this is the worst, Xavier. How long do we have to stay in this hellhole of a dimension?
For as long as it takes. For you to feel it instinctively, boy. You must feel this dimension with your very being when you cast your entangle spell. Just as you felt the desert world when you used your sand spell. You must feel it with every sense. You have to remember it. With every part of you.
I had to admit, that did make a lot of sense. If I had done this before our quest to defeat Derek, I had no doubt I would have been able to channel this dimension. The problem was, I hadn't spent enough time here. It was hard to channel each dimension at will when I'd barely spent any time in them. Alright, but I do have to be home for dinner at some point. My parents are already pissed about my midterm grades.
That is something no magic can correct. You must simply spend more time studying.
When? I'm working with you for minimum wage. Every minute I'm not either asleep or at school.
Oh yes, sleep. It's been so long, I nearly forgot about that old vice.
You don't sleep? I exclaimed, slapping a mosquito which had landed on my neck.
Ow! Never. But one thing at a time. First, vines.
He pointed his staff upwards, and I did as he asked, channeling my abilities and sending vines up into the air in a braiding double arch. I couldn't help it. I hadn't eaten since breakfast.
Very nice. I see what you did there. Okay, let's go back. I could use a Big Mac myself. Besides, I think my bug spray is starting to wear off.
You had bug spray? After spending the whole day in the jungle dimension, I limped home sore, bug-bitten, and exhausted. Becoming a sorcerer was way more difficult than I had originally thought it was going to be. Wizards and magic users in the movies and on television always looked so wise and capable. I could barely focus enough to make a simple vine trap. I wondered if Gandalf or Merlin had been trained by absent-minded mentors who could barely remember their own names, let alone the names of their apprentices. So, I hear you got beat up by Derek the Dummy. Couldn't believe it when I heard it. I had to see this for myself. I looked up to see Grupe standing in the road ahead of me, looking at me with a smirk on her face. He didn't beat me up. He ran. He jumped into a portal with his rat friends the minute we started to get the best of him. That's not the way he tells it. I looked down at my feet and kept limping back towards my house, walking right past her. She followed after me. Just leave me alone. She's gonna try to convince me to steal Xavier's key again. Well, I'm not stupid. And I'm not gonna do your dirty work for you. I'm his apprentice now, not your little servant. She looked slightly hurt by that. I almost felt bad for a minute. Almost. Oh, right, I forgot. You're his little servant now. So, what does he have you doing? Running out for coffee? Getting his precious double-double with a honey cruller on the side? Ugh, so sick of him and his entitled attitude. Actually, he cut out the donut recently. Too much cholesterol. Then she did look hurt, and I realized it was because I now knew him better than she did, and she had just figured that out. Now I was the one getting his coffee and hanging out with him in his workshop, learning spells. I wondered if she missed it at all. You really gonna stick it out with him, huh? She asked. Yeah. Do you want to come back over to the good side by any chance? We could really use your help. Oh, definitely, she said, and I got momentarily excited I had gotten through to her somehow. You are definitely going to need a lot of help. Oh, Derek! Suddenly, the roadway began to flood with 1,000 small, furry rodent bodies, coming from everywhere at once. They emerged from the sewers and from the alleys, from beneath cars and houses, and they surrounded me. Then, suddenly the rodents were beneath me, carrying me away. I tried to blast a few of them with lightning bolts, but had no success summoning up any vines to assist me. Despite the day's training, I was overcome with panic and unable to focus. Derek was suddenly standing there beside Grupe, with his wand in his hand, making phallic summoning motions with it as he laughed at my misfortune. A portal opened up before me, and I was carried off toward it, upon the backs of a sea of rats and mice of questionable vaccination status. Grupe rubbed further salt in my wounds by taking her wand from her pocket as well, and casting a spell with it effortlessly. I screamed as wiry black tendrils appeared out of nowhere, seeming to grow up out of the ground like evil plant life. They moved like parasitic worms, but felt like they were made of steel wire, as they wrapped around my entire body, coiling around my arms and legs, my midsection and mouth, and I was dragged off into a swirling purple portal. And then they covered my eyes, and everything went black. Grupe and Derek were the first things I saw when I regained consciousness. I looked around to see we were in a dark, cavernous place, which I guessed was far underground. There was no light source anywhere. My eyes had adjusted just enough to see the dim outlines of their features, as they slapped me awake with hard, barehanded hits to the face. What? Where am I? Where isn't important right now, snapped Grupe. It is who you are kneeling before. That is what you need to concern yourself with right now. Who you are meeting at this moment. This opportunity, it is not to be taken lightly. He will change your life forever, just as he did ours. Then a set of eyes appeared blinking in the corner. They reflected light where there was none. Two eyes glared at me from the blackness, and I could see a figure getting to their feet.
Hello,
The deep, rattling voice said.
you are Xavier's apprentice. I've heard a lot about you.
Who the hell are you? I asked, more frightened than I had ever been in my life.
Names are not important,
said the Shadow Man.
Choices are the important thing. Branches on a tree leading to an end. You have a choice ahead of you. A decision awaits you. The same as a man walking down a road on a long journey and coming to a crossroads. There is a path which leads to the right, and a path which leads to the left, for both of you. The man sees that the path leading to the left is unpaved, full of potholes, and winds through dark forests and treacherous mountain passes. Or, the man sees that he can choose to go to the right. He finds that way is much more appealing to his eyes. There, the road is paved and flat, leading straight toward his destination, which can be glimpsed in the distance. Many others walk along this same road, and he sees it is lit with the warm glow of sunlight. He is almost there, if only he takes this path to the right. So, which way do you go? If you are the traveler, how could you or anyone else justify your choice to take the hard road? I stared at the reflections in his eyes and tried to comprehend his logic. What are you trying to say to me? Just speak it plainly. I don't appreciate your metaphors. Are you trying to tell me it would be easier to go along with you? That it would be better somehow to try and bring about oblivion? He shook his head and clicked his tongue. You look at the two paths and see the simpler one as the correct one. You see the right path as the true path. But sometimes things are not as simple as they appear. Let us presume you take the path, which appears so simple, so perfect. Many have traveled it before you, and you find it takes you exactly to your destination as you predicted. But then you continue on. You walk further, and you find that that path is but a loop, a circle, which takes you back yet again to that same choice, over and over, as if it is a test of unlimited attempts for us to pass. A test laid out for us by someone greater than us all. Someone who is very, very patient. The multiverse is coming to an end. I have seen it in the tree's glowing heart, where the beginning and the end are as one. I have seen things your master could only dream of. I know all of it comes to an end eventually. Just as it has before, it will come again. He will come again. We can start over from scratch and begin again from the start. Make things better this time for everyone. Not just for the lucky few, but for all. No more injustice. No more inequality. So your plan is to blow it all up and start over? Is that why you're turning all these worlds into the abyss? I challenged him, scared as I was. He nodded. Exactly. See? I knew you would understand. It's for the greater good. And don't worry. If you're here to see the end, you will get to see the new beginning. I'll make sure of that. Because you'll be in charge, right? Oh, yes. He will see to that. Who else would he put in charge? Who else could do it? To make everything fair? That will be the goal of the new multiverse. Peace and prosperity for everyone. No more suffering.
Just out of curiosity, how would you make that happen? No suffering and only peace for everyone? You can't be everywhere at once, and even if you could, how would you stop everyone from making people around them suffer and hurt? Not that I'm condoning it, but what about free will? What if people make a bad decision and someone suffers from it? Or loses their inner peace because of it? I couldn't help it. The questions were pouring out of me, and I couldn't stop. It was like a floodgate of curiosity had opened in my mind at just the mere mention of such things as he was planning. No more suffering, he repeated. Peace and prosperity for everyone. You will see. You will love it. Just like the rest of them. He will make sure that you love it. Because I won't have a choice in the matter, right? But you do. You do have a choice. Right now. Decide. I sputtered and tried to think of a way to stall, but it was impossible. They all glared at me in the darkness and waited for me to say that I would join them. I was terrified, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. No, I won't join you. I refuse to believe that this is better. Darkness? The abyss? This is death. I want to fight for life. For freedom, damn it. Find another patsy. I wasn't sure where I'd heard that last line, but it seemed to fit in that moment. The dark eyes around the room glared at me and squinted in disbelief. So be it. You will die with the rest of the non-believers, the dark shadow man said, and then he pushed me. Behind me, without me realizing it, a portal had been opened up in the ground. I dropped backwards into it, and then I was falling down, down, down for a long, long time. When I opened my eyes, I was in a grassy field, and I thought maybe, just maybe, I was home. But it would not be so easy. I stood up and looked around to see it was early evening in this place. The sun going down orange on the horizon. It certainly was not Earth, though. All around me were perfectly round craters that pockmarked the grassy meadow I was standing in. A cold wind was blowing in from the directions of some mountains in the distance, and I noticed a small village at the base of these mountains, smoke rising up from the chimneys there. The idyllic-looking town appeared to be of a medieval age, I thought to myself, walking carefully toward it through the grass. If there was any hope of contacting Xavier and finding a way home, maybe the village would have the answers. Mostly, though, I just didn't want to be alone in this strange world when the sun went down. I hoped I could make it to that small town before nightfall. As I walked through the grassy field, I saw more of the craters were opening up by the minute. The ground was crumbling all around me, I suddenly noticed with growing apprehension. The entire field was unstable. I hurried along even faster, picking up my pace to a run as I tried desperately to find my way through the pockmarked field full of craters. A few times I had to stop on a dime to avoid running right into one, since the waist-high grass obstructed the view. Just as I was nearing what looked to be the end of this strange, crumbling field, I felt the ground give way beneath my feet, and I leapt into the air, reaching for the solid ground on the other side of the chasm, which had just formed where I'd been standing. Barely, I managed to grab onto the tall grass on the other side of the pit, my legs dangling over the hole in the earth that had just opened up. Below was nothing but blackness, I noticed when I made the mistake of looking. The grass I was clinging to was being pulled from its roots, I saw with horror, as I kicked my legs and tried with all my effort to climb up to solid ground. But it was no good. The grass pulled free from the dirt, and I went backwards into the blackness, screaming as I fell. And then something grabbed me. Someone grabbed my hand and pulled me up. Panting, laying face down on the ground, I looked up to see who had rescued me. It was a girl about my age, who also now looked out of breath and exhausted from the effort of saving me. She had black hair and was dressed in dark, simple clothing. "Thank you," I managed to say. "You saved my life." "I did," she said back. "Now you owe me yours. Come, let's go to the village. I'll introduce you to my family, and you can see your new home, behind the glass." Whatever behind the glass meant, I wasn't liking the sound of it at all. Thanks. I really appreciate you saving me and all, but I need to go home. Back to my family. You understand that, right?" Her eyes darkened, and she stood to her feet, looking down at me. I noticed she was holding something in her hand that looked like a dog collar. "Talavar respectus," she said, and the collar suddenly flew from her hand and snapped around my neck, fastening itself tightly there. It felt like a necktie that had been tightened too much. "There," she said, nodding to herself. "Come with me. You understand that, right?" Hey everybody. If you listen to the channel a lot, you know I don't do a lot of outros, but I wanted to do one for this particular video since this one's really close to my heart. I hope you enjoyed this first installment of this 3-part series titled The Sorcerer's New Apprentice, written by me, Jordan Grupe. So this is a story I've been looking forward to sharing with y'all for quite a while now. The next parts are going to be coming soon. There's going to be 3 parts in total. It's a 20-part series, which I've divided up into 3 large parts. So I'll be announcing the exact dates when those will be released on the channel soon, but I'm hoping within the next month or so we'll have the full series on the channel. If you enjoyed this first installment, please leave a comment and subscribe. If you know somebody who you think would enjoy this series, I hope you share it with them. I really appreciate all your support, and I don't say this enough, but thank you all for watching and for supporting my channel and for supporting me. It really means a lot, and I wouldn't be doing this without you guys. So, thanks again, hope you have a great night, and see you next time. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupeHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you, which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.